Hello everybody and a very warm welcome to this Scotland Fans Media Conference, the first ever Scotland Fans Media Conference powered by Google+. And joining me in the Google+ Hangout here at the Scotland Team HQ, it's Darren Fletcher, the Scotland captain. Great to see you, Darren, and Stephen Naismith of Everton, both of whom have been playing and had a great start to the season personally. Guys, first of all, we've got a massive week ahead of us, of course, with Scotland in Germany. What are your thoughts about the lie of the land with the Scotland team at the moment, Darren?
I think we're in a real good place, a real positive place. Some great performances, and I think that there's a good excitement going into the start of the new campaign. I think the fans are right behind us as they always are, but I think they've got a little bit of excitement around them that we can achieve good things if we can keep the form and keep progressing the way we have been in the last few matches.
Are you all the more excited now that this fella is back?
Definitely. I said earlier in the week that he's a great character to be around the squad, not just as a professional, as a player. He's good for all the new boys and younger ones. He leads by example, and he's a model professional.
I'll give you that tenner later, maybe.
That's worth more than a tenner. Mr. Fletcher, can you remember when it was you last played a competitive game?
Yeah, I think it was going back to the double header against Wales and Belgium. Not great games looking back on them, but yeah, it's been a long time. But I've been desperate to come back and represent Scotland, and especially seeing the lads doing so well. You want to be a part of it, and we're all desperate to qualify for a major competition. And with the addition of more teams in the Euros 2016, we've got a real opportunity. We've got a tough group, but if we can perform to our capabilities, we're more than capable.
1998, of course, was the last time that Scotland qualified. That was in France. This tournament's in France as well. There's maybe a bit of symmetry about that, Stephen. Do you remember? What are your memories of that World Cup? What were you doing at that time?
That's probably the first tournament I really remember of taking a big interest in. My mum and dad actually went and telling you stories about how good a tournament
They
was.
went to France?
They were at it, yeah, the Morocco game. So great stories, but to be part of it would be something else, and like Fletcher said earlier, the optimism in the squad's definitely its highest since I've been there, and we're very confident.
What is it that has made you all feel so optimistic?
The first thing's probably the competition for places, the standard of player. The majority of the squad's playing in England's top two divisions, and against best players in the world each week, so that's going to improve the quality of player, but also the younger prospects who are coming through, they're pushing the older guys, so there's nobody within the squad that really will be thinking, I'm definitely starting this game, or I'm going to be playing. So that's probably the biggest thing, and the manager's changed a few things, but he's got the hunger back, definitely.
The Westfalen Stadium is where it all begins for Scotland on Sunday night. Special venue that. Have you had experience of the Westfalen before, or what do you know of it?
Well, obviously know of it being one of the biggest stadiums in Europe, and famous stand behind the goal, and the Borussia Dortmund fans have got a reputation of their own, but I've never been there myself, so it's going to be a fantastic experience to go there, and obviously playing against world champions as well. I'm sure there'll be a carnival sort of atmosphere, and maybe it's a good time to go there and to play them. Hopefully we can catch them on a day when they're celebrating maybe a little bit too much, and if we put in a good performance we can get a good result.
Have you been aware from teammates and opponents in the Premier League in England that when players come back from big tournaments, there's often a hangover, if you like, in the legs, and are not heavy, they're just injury prone for basically the whole season. Is that something you've noticed, and might that be a factor on Sunday?
Oh, we hope it's a factor. If the players have had a little bit more time off, they're maybe not as fit as they have been, and they've had long hard seasons and gone through a tough World Cup where they've done training camps, and maybe they're just a few weeks behind everyone else in the terms of fitness, especially maybe some of the Germany players who've gone all the way to the final and maybe have had a long holiday and haven't done as much pre-season, but we're still going to be playing against the best team in the world. It's a fact. They're the world champions, and we hope that that's the case, that there's a little bit of fatigue and a little bit of a lull, and maybe not quite as fit as they are, but knowing professional players nowadays, it's not the case of going away in pre-season and putting on 2 or 3 stone. I think those days are gone. So I think we'll be facing a fit German team anyway.
You never know. After winning the World Cup, they probably deserved it. Stephen, you when you look at the team that you saw on TV winning in Rio, it will be a different German team because of retirements and injury. So will it be weaker? I mean, you obviously know the guys who are not going to be there.
To be honest, they've got a squad of a conveyor belt of talent who will come in. The only aspect of that might change is a few big characters within the squad of retired, which again hopefully plays into the hands of us. It's a different dynamic within the squad, but they're real quality players. They're going to be. We'll need to definitely be at the top of our game to get in from the game, and that's what we'll work towards this week.
How are you feeling at the moment?
Great. I've with the World Cup being on, you get an extended break, which was good, and came back to pre-season and played the majority of the games, scored some goals, and I've carried that on into the season. So it's been personally a great start, and definitely my momentum and confidence is high at the moment. You
scored a goal in every Premier League game thus far for Everton. Was that better than you would have expected, or does the slight positional change that you've been given, was that almost inevitable given the way you're feeling at the moment?
I think playing more centrally, you're definitely involved in more of the attacks and probably getting into the box a bit more, which helped me. But as long as I'm contributing in some way, whether that's creating chances or getting on the end of them, that's the kind of main thing. But it's been a slight surprise that the calibre of player we've played, that I've had so many chances in the games, and to take them is just what I've worked on all through pre-season. So the hard work's definitely paid off.
And do you feel all the more confident and ready for the World Champions after that preparation?
Definitely. Played against a few of the opponents in the Arsenal game, so gives you a slight taste of what it'll be like. But against these quality opponents, you only get a few chances in games, and you've just got to be ready to take them when they come along.
Here's your chance to return the compliment. What have you thought of the way that Stephen has played for his club so far this season, but more recently last season, country as well?
It's been fantastic, and I think that it showed that he's had a run now clear of injuries, and he's shown everyone what he's capable of. He's had some serious injuries and showed great character to come back for them, and his form's been fantastic. End of last season for Scotland, and he started the season on fire, and his goal scoring is fantastic because we know he contributes so much more in terms of work rate and positions off the ball, and he's such a team player. And then the fact that he's scoring goals as well, he's had a fantastic start to the season, and it's great to see a Scotsman and near the top of the goal scoring charts, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, well, may that continue. And do you think it would be all the more important, or do you think the team will need to rely on Naismith much more, given the very sad injury to Robert Snodgrass?
Yeah, obviously we're all thinking about Robert and dropped him a text, and it's a real bad injury. But as Naismith showed, and a lot of the players have shown, you can come back from these things. It's all about a positive attitude, and I'm sure we'll have Snoddy back. And yeah, it's another time. It's a big player for Scotland, and other players are going to have to step up. And we hope that Stephen Naismith can continue his club form. And I think, as you spoke about, his confidence is going to be high just now, and that can breed throughout the rest of the squad. And we've got great players all around the squad. Competition for places are good, and let's hope somebody can step up and take Snoddy's place.
Now, for you at home, you can tweet us using the hashtag #WeAreScotland. That's the hashtag #WeAreScotland. So you can tweet your questions for the lads over the next 20 minutes or so. Now, also hanging out with us tonight here in our Google Plus Hangout are 3 of my fellow Scotland supporters. We'll be hearing from you gentlemen in just a couple of minutes' time. But before we do that, the guys are going to ask you some questions that they want to hear answered. Don't look so nervous. I'm sure they'll be very nice.
I hope you've vetted these questions, haven't you?
No, unfortunately not. I'm sure somebody has. I want to ask you about the supporters. How important have the Scotland supporters been for you, and how important will they be in Germany when there could be in excess of 5,000 at the stadium at the Westfalen?
Yeah, Scotland supporters, we keep talking about it because it's true. They've been fantastic for us, all throughout the years, and they've had long barren spells and some disappointing times, but they've always stuck behind the team. And it is definitely a Team Scotland. It's like a club atmosphere. The fans love going away. they enjoy the trips away. But the biggest thing is that their support for the team, and there's a stadium. Oh, it's a massive stadium. And to have up to 5,000 in there, they'll definitely make their voices heard, and the players really appreciate the support, and we're desperate to do well for them. Although we want to get to a major competition ourselves, we're desperate for the fans to get there as well, because what an addition to a tournament they'd be. Yeah,
that's a really, really good point. And I think the supporters as well, for you, Stephen, you've become a real pin-up, if you like, for the Tartan Army. Does that add to the
That sounds good, that sounds very good.
Not like where they're pinning you up.
Like Fletch said, they definitely do make a difference. And even going back to your club, a lot of players who either have played in the game or I've just watched it mention what the atmosphere's like. So it's a big plus that we know we can rely on them to turn up, even though it's been so long being a major tournament. And they'll definitely be key going forward in this campaign.
Right, well, let's hear from the supporters now who are joining us. Let's go first of all to Graham Swan, who is in Langside in Glasgow. Not sure if I coughed there very loudly when Darren was speaking earlier, Graham, but welcome along to the Hangout. What's your question for the lads?
I suppose a question that just comes to mind would be, obviously in international football, if you could manage to score a winner against any competition, who would it be and why? Right, scoring winners, that's your department. Naismith?
For me, it would need to be the world champions, whoever that may be in whatever game you are playing. But fortunately for me, when Spain were the world champions, I scored my first goal for Scotland, which was great. But for it to be a winner would be extra special. So that would definitely be who I would like to score the winner against.
You scored in your competitive debut against Lithuania. In fact, you both scored winning goals against Lithuania. How special was that one for you?
That was fantastic. I'd played in Norway my first game, and then coming off the bench against Lithuania and scored the winner that got us in the playoffs. It was with one of my first touches as well. It was a great moment and one I look back on with great pride. But thinking about who I'd love to score against, I keep thinking about that England game in November, and I know it's not part of the qualifying campaign, but it's still a massive game and one that I think a lot of the players are looking forward to, and that'd be a nice one to score the winner in as well.
Is that one that's kind of, look at this massive game against Germany, this England game, just one that you're all thinking about already? And you missed it last year, of course.
I think because I missed the one at Wembley, and was really gutted about that, and watching the lads perform so well, and I think we should have took something from the game. But the fact that we get to play them now in Scotland, we know it's going to be at Celtic Park, the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable. I've got all my teammates warned that it's going to be special and to get ready for it. But we've got big qualifiers before that, so it's important not to think about too much about that. As Neil said, the Germany game is massive. It's the first game of the campaign because the goal is to qualify for a tournament, and although the England friendly is nice, qualifying games are important.
We're not allowed to think about it though, aren't we? I mean, it's such a big event.
Yeah, I think for me last year it was great to kind of get that friendly back, and I only played 5 minutes, which for me I was a bit gutted at. So this time around it would be nice to play a bit longer, but it's definitely about the qualifiers first and foremost.
Right, let's hear from one of our other fans joining us on the Google Plus Hangout tonight. It's Fife we go to now. Methil and Colin Robertson is there. Colin, and your mascot. Who's your mascot? First of all, we must ask about that.
This is Young Bailey here.
Really nice to see you. What's your question then for Fletch and for Stephen?
My question is to both guys really. I want to know what their favourite moment is in a Scotland shirt thus far.
Your favourite moment then? You've had a few. You want time to think about that?
No, there's been a few good moments. We've had some great results. Away in France, at home to France, Holland in the first leg of the playoffs. There's been some great. But I think away in France, I actually fractured my leg in the game and came off after in the first half. But I remember being in the stand in crutches when Fadi scored that goal, and we know the famous Coventry that goes with it. And I remember driving to the game and seeing all the Scotland fans. There was thousands and thousands, and inside the stadium as well. It actually felt like a home game for us. It was incredible. looking back in that game, it's one of the most special moments in my Scotland career, without a shadow of a doubt.
What was it like when you walked out? I remember I was working for TV that night and coming down the tunnel. Everywhere I looked, there were Scotland supporters, and the Parc des Princes it was that night. And you really felt as though it was like a home game. And did that add an extra 10-20% to the players that night?
Yeah, of course. I think they got a system where they went online in France and got the tickets. So the Scotland fans everywhere and buying tickets and getting a hold of tickets. It felt like a home game. It was. I wouldn't be surprised if there was more Scotland fans in the stadium, and to be away in France in a qualifier for that to be the case, it just shows how good the fans are, and definitely helped the players without a shadow of doubt. If you go to an away game and it's dominated by the home team and it's an intimidating atmosphere, it can be difficult, but it felt like a home game for us, which definitely contributed to the result.
It was a good night out afterwards, I can tell you, over there. You get 3 goals in your 29 caps. What's your standout memory thus far?
I think the goals play a predominant part in that, but out with that, my first start was at home to Holland, and we get beat 1-0 at the end of the day, but for so long in the game we played so well, and we had some good chances that if one of them had went in, it might have been a different story. But just to make my full debut at home against Holland in a packed Hampden was a surreal experience after so many years going to watch with different boys clubs and stuff growing up, so it was a special moment.
You say it was surreal then, but you've subsequently played against the then world champion Spain, scored your first Scotland goal that night, and therefore have you lost that feeling of being surreal, but were you almost overawed by it all, and can you now take Germany in your stride almost? You adapt to it the more you play, and the more caps you play, and also the further you go in your club side. So you do kind of find it not as surreal, but overall it's because you were in the stand watching it to then be playing was massive, and then to be playing against the world champions again, so you're testing yourself against the best, and we showed up very well that night, and hopefully we can play as well, but get a better result in this campaign. Let's hope so. Let's have a word now with David Barron, who's our next Scotland supporter who's talking to us tonight. David, which Highland Glen are you Skyping us from tonight?
It's a really, really, really northern one. It's called London.
We won't hold that against you. What's your question for the lads here?
Hi guys. Just with the game against Germany in mind, how do you plan to stop the best team in the world?
Oh, that's an easy one.
Don't get Gordon Strachan.
Yeah, that's the manager.
So, how do you stop them then?
By believing in yourself, playing as a team. Obviously, we'll need a game plan. I think that's everyone knows that. But I think it's believing in yourself, and sometimes it can come down to a one-on-one battle, and it's over 90 minutes, and yeah, you might be playing against one of the best players in the world, but can you be better than him over that 90 minutes? And I think a little bit of self-confidence and belief. See who you're playing against, and just sometimes say to yourself, I'm going to do my utmost to make it a difficult night for you, and I'm going to come out on top of my personal battle. And if we can get 4, 5, 6 of them, I think you're well on your way to getting a good result.
As you mentioned, you've had the personal battle already with some of the Germans this season in the Premier League.
I think another big part for us is when we've got it that we retain possession well. There's no point of just constantly forcing things and giving the Germans the ball back and trying to defend it out for 90 minutes. And I'm sure the manager's not been that type since he came in. He's made us believe that we are good passers of the ball. We know when to play a forward pass, when to kind of calm it down and take the sting out of the game, and that will definitely be very important on Sunday night.
Where has this confidence that you both mentioned, come from?
Probably a bit for the forward going players, giving them a wee bit more freedom. That getting out of the position, going out of your position into somebody else's position, and having a bit more freedom to play all over the park, knowing that somebody will cover you. That's definitely kind of given me a wee bit more confidence.
Guys, I hope that answered your question for now. I've got some of the questions that you at home have been tweeting us using that We Are Scotland hashtag. John Bleasdale has tweeted, and he says, asking you both, having come up against Spain 4 years ago, how do you compare the Germans to that Spanish team?
That's a good question. Maybe not as intimidating. I think that Spanish team was very special, who dominated possession of the ball, and would probably have maybe 70% of the ball in the game. And although Germany are a very good team, maybe they do keep possession as well, maybe not as much. And I'd like to think that we showed that we could compete against them, especially at Hampden. I think we should definitely have got a result that night. We were very unlucky, and we lost a goal early away from home, which always proves difficult, and that's one thing to learn from as well before this game. But believe in yourself, and sometimes you want to be aware of the opposition, what they can do, and obviously respect them for that. But have a bit of belief in our own abilities, and as Naisy said, have a go, get players in attacking areas, show some confidence, and I think that if we can do that, it'll help us in the game massively.
Yeah, I think you can draw some similarities in terms of the way they play. They both like to retain the ball and have long spells of keeping possession to maybe find that space to run into or play a through pass to. So they're probably the similarities we will come up against. But I think Fletcher's right in saying that Spain had a team who had dominated for many years, whereas this is probably the start of Germany's reign. So it's a massive task, but one we believe we can do well on.
Now, Jordan Scott has tweeted us at #WeAreScotland and said, "What match has been your favourite that you've played in a Scotland strip?" I think we've probably touched on that already, but worth recapping.
For big ones, scoring against Spain's massive, but I really enjoyed the Croatia home game not so long ago. It was a great team performance, and we won quite convincingly.
Is that because it was it was almost like a turning point, wasn't it? Or if Croatia away was a turning point, this was just...
I think Croatia away was probably a bit more of a solid unit and kind of break on them, whereas the home game was more, let's match them and go at them when we get the ball, and we've done that for long periods and got our just rewards with the 2 goals.
Can you pick...
Yeah, there's so many. Home games always spring to mind because the atmosphere is so special, and especially playing against the so-called bigger nations, Italy, Holland, Spain. We've always gave them very good games and always been, got some great results and been unlucky in them as well. But you've never felt like you've been dominated in those games. We've always been in a match, and the atmosphere's always been fantastic. And the biggest thing is those teams and top players have come off the pitch probably exhausted and probably thinking, wow, what was that? In terms of the tempo and the energy and how difficult it was and the whole atmosphere. And sometimes seeing the look on some of those experienced players' faces tells you. I remember Ambrosini in the Italy game just looking at me like, what is going on here? He was just like, this is unbelievable, the fans and how we were playing. And so moments like that you remember.
Yeah, that's a great story. And Kevin Lynch wants to know on Twitter, will we do better than Brazil did against Germany? I mean, it's a good question, that, because when I was watching the semi-final, and it was 5 after 29 minutes, finished 7, of course. What were you when you were watching that? What were you thinking at that time?
I was thinking, hopefully we don't defend like Brazil. No, I think Brazil were their own enemies that night. For how good Germany were, I think everyone will look to how bad Brazil were defensively and how open they were and how they completely, threw the game away. If they've lost maybe 1-2 and then shut up shop for 10-15 minutes and settled into the game, they might have had a goal second half when things calmed down, but they just kept going cavalier. So we know that Germany, there's an example of them wanting to start quick and end the game early, so we know we have to be aware of that. And even if we do suffer an early goal, which we're not planning on, it's all about regrouping quickly and sticking to the game plan and not letting it become 2 or 3. These are things you can definitely learn from and draw on those experiences.
I think Brazil also had the pressures of being the home nation and having to, I think their fans expected them to come out and have a go, whereas I would imagine we'll not have the pressure of having to go and win the game in the first half, so I'm sure our game plan will be slightly different.
Should we go back to the supporters in the final 10 minutes, guys? Let's get another question from you. Let's start this time with Colin Robertson in Methil. Colin, do you want to ask another question of the boys?
What's the best atmosphere they've experienced in a Scotland shirt?
Colin, we missed the beginning of your question. Can you say that again, please?
Sorry, I'd just like to ask what's the guys' best atmosphere they've experienced in a Scotland jersey?
Best atmosphere so far, Naismith?
For me, it's definitely the Holland game. My first start, just the roar of the crowd as you first came out the tunnel was enough to get the hairs on your back of your neck to stand up. It was that's when I really knew that international football is a bit different than club football, and that was a very special moment.
Have you got a favourite moment apart from the France game? I remember a Holland game that you played in when you were very young.
Yeah.
Playoff at Hampden when Faddy scored. That was something else as well, wasn't it?
That was one year that when Faddy scored, the roof came off the stadium, and we won 1-0. We won't talk about the second leg, which was a bit of a disaster, but that atmosphere, yes, you know. Sometimes when you think, as Nate said, when you're younger and it's new to you, you remember them more. Because it's like, wow, this is, you know, it's special. This is what it's all about. This is what the famous Hampden roar, you know, all those things start hitting home. And at first, it's a little bit like, wow, and you do get used to it. Although it is a unique experience every time, you do get a little bit more used to it. I think at first, when you're younger, it's moments you'll remember for the rest of your life. And I remember the atmosphere after that. We'd almost thought we'd qualified and forgot we had to go to Amsterdam for a second leg, which was a disappointing result, but you can always look back on fond memories from the first leg and a fantastic result and performance. You spoke about your appreciating more when you were younger, but now that you're older and after the couple of years that you've had with ill health, will you appreciate the Germany game perhaps as much as any of your caps? Yeah, maybe so. I try not to get a little bit too sentimental about stuff like that because I always felt I would be back. But there is a time to appreciate it, definitely. And I think you should appreciate every cap and every situation. And you know, I'm very, very lucky and fortunate to have represented my country so many times, and it's something I love doing and feel a great honour in doing as well. And I think I always will. So it's something that you don't want to end, and that's why. And I want to qualify for a competition. You know. That's the ultimate goal, is playing in a major competition, and then not only accepting that when we hopefully get there, but then try and go and do something there as well. You know, I think there's so much more to achieve, and hopefully I can do it.
Is this your last hit at it?
No, I don't. I like to not. Are you writing me off already?
No, I'm glad you asked me that. That's awkward, isn't it? Philip Lamb has just retired, and he's only 2.5 months older than you. I know he's just.
I'll retire. I'll retire when I win the World Cup as well.
Yeah, we'll let you then. But yeah, he's only 30 as well. So, is that ever crossed your mind, or do you feel as though that you maybe owed something extra after the last couple of years?
I don't think I'm owed anything extra, but I'm not thinking about retiring or anything like that. You know, I still love representing my country and still got a lot to achieve. And yeah, I think that hopefully they'll be phoning me, telling me I'm not picked at some stage, and then, you know, maybe then that might be the case, but I'm not thinking about retiring or anything like that. I love representing my country and don't want it to end.
Yeah, we're glad to hear that. What were you doing this time last year?
Probably getting ready to go for an operation or something along those lines. So yeah, it was a total different situation to I'm sitting in now, but I always believed I'd be back sitting, maybe not talking to you in a situation like this, but back playing for my country. Yeah, I always believed that would be the case, and I think I needed that mindset and to get back to where I think I was, and I feel like I'm there now. Yeah.
Do you feel 100% now?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, feel better than 100% because everything I've been through and it's all off the back of me now, and it's just forgetting about that and just looking to the future.
I know from the industry that I work in, everybody was thrilled to hear that you were appointed vice captain at your club. What did that mean to you with the new manager coming in and him turning to you, promoting you in that fashion?
Yeah, it was great, and asked him why I wasn't captain. No, I'm joking. No, it was great. You know, I've captained Scotland a number of times, and that's a great honour and something that I really enjoy doing. And yeah, sometimes when you find yourself getting older, you find yourself progressing into that role. But I've not changed the way I am. You know, I speak and try to lead by example and help younger players. And even if I wasn't named vice captain or wasn't captain of Scotland, I wouldn't change anything different than I do. I think the biggest thing is to be yourself, do what comes naturally, and don't feel like just because you've been named captain you have to do something that's not comfortable or not something that you'd usually do. I've always just did what comes naturally, what I feel is right in every situation, and I've been very fortunate to have been chosen as vice captain and to have captained my country. Let's get
another quick question from the Scotland supporters. David Barron, who's just south of Gretna. David, what's your second question for the lads?
With the club versus country debate, which would you rather, the latter stages of the Champions League or the same at a major international tournament?
Easy can answer that one.
It's got to be for your country, getting to the latter stages of a major tournament, especially for how long it's been for us, the whole as a nation. It's just a distant memory, whereas we want to be part of something special and get back to that. So I would definitely pick the higher end of a major tournament for my country than club.
Controversial for some viewers.
Have got any Everton fans on there?
You never know. It is a balancing act though, isn't it? But what would it mean to get to the big ones with the country?
It's the ultimate, you know. It's what we're all here to do. It's what all the players are thinking about. It's what the manager's thinking about. It's what the fans are thinking. It's what the whole country wants. So,
I mean, does getting to a World Cup surpass a Champions League final to word it another way?
You can't compare. You know, it's very difficult, and I want everything. I'm very greedy. You know, I want to win and qualify for everything, and I think all players think that way. And when you have a success, you want it again. So I think it's always good to want more, and I think you should be greedy and try and win as much as you can, because it is a short career, and you know, I might be sitting in your position in a few years interviewing a few new players and my time's up. That's football.
Okay. Keep working your football and come back. And but do you want to ask the next question?
No, that's all right.
Okay. Graham Swan back in Glasgow South Side. Graham, do you want to have a final crack at the guys?
Yeah, hi. My mate Malky asked me to ask this question. What is it that playing under Gordon is doing that is getting us better results compared to where we've been in the last few years?
What has he done for the squad, Gordon Strachan?
I think he's brave confidence and a freshness about that, and he's a great character. Everyone knows how good a character he is, and he is to the players as well. But he gives the players a platform and gives us confidence to go and express ourselves. And it's not about sitting behind the ball and absorbing pressure and hoping for a lucky break. We try and be expansive. We try and make things happen when we get the ball. We try and pass the ball forward and into the attacking players and make things happen and get people into the box, get crosses into the box. And I think that it's been a pleasure to I've only been in one squad, but I've been on the phone to him regularly while I've not been here, and he's an infectious character, and I think that's translated into the squad. I think Naisy will be able to answer it in more detail because he's been a vital part in the recent success.
He's been here 18 months now, so what is it that he's done just to give us this extra attacking edge and extra positivity?
One thing that springs to mind is he's emphasised the fact to play forward passes to try and break teams down, reassuring you that if you do try that pass and it doesn't come off, then you're not going to be getting hooked after half an hour of the game. He wants you to do that, so he wants you to keep trying it. I think it's paid off. In the middle of the park, we've had very good passers and guys who can see that forward pass, and he's used it much more than we have in the past, because he knows that we've got good players in the wide areas as well that can take players on and beat their man and create chances, and he's just emphasised that part of the game rather than being a bit more cautious and like Fletch says, defending well and hoping to counter teams. He's just kind of said, go at them and give as good as you get.
He's, as you touched on, got a great personality. You can probably hear him. He's outside at the moment. I can hear him chatting outside. Who's dish the dirt on some of your teammates? Who's the loudest in the squad?
Bruni, without a doubt. Bruni.
And he's not here, but we can still hear him all the way from Edinburgh.
Barry Bannon's.
Baz is
Barry got yeah, he's like a mini version of the gaffer, isn't he?
He's smaller than God.
Same hairstyle.
Yeah, same hairstyle. Looks a bit like him. Yeah. Plays a bit like him, and he's a character as well.
And
there's one more, Snoddy.
Yeah,
Snoddy's a big character as well.
Yeah.
And who's the worst dresser?
I never really see the lads in the gear because they're always in the tracksuits, you know what I mean? So I couldn't really answer that.
Can't mention anybody really.
Does that mean it's you two?
No.
Are you dodging that question?
He's got his shorts on, very stylish tonight. The camera.
Look at those legs, everybody. Look at those legs. Gentlemen, it's been great having you on, and thanks for your time. It's been really interesting insight, and all the best for the coming campaign, starting, of course, against the World Champions. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers.
And that's it then from our hall. We really hope you've enjoyed it. It's our first ever Scotland Fans Media Conference.
It's the last as well.
We'll bring that up the next time. It's been great hearing from the fans. It's been great hearing from the supporters on Twitter, and great hearing from the lads as well. Thanks very much indeed to Google Plus for making it all happen. Enjoy your football and enjoy watching the game in the Westphal, whether you're there or watching it on TV. From all of us here at the Scotland headquarters, it's goodbye for now.